Welcome to the Reed Flute. Find a comfortable position, take a slow, deep breath, and let the day gently fall away as we begin. In Shiraz, when the last sellers were folding their cloth and the pomegranate skins lay dark in the gutter, Sadi sat beneath the eaves of a small caravanserai. The hour had softened. A clay lamp breathed beside him. Somewhere in the courtyard, a reed flute gave a thin, low note, as if the reed bed itself were remembering the knife. A traveler named Hamid came in from the road with dust on his hem and a heaviness around his eyes. He had the look of a man who had argued with someone in silence for many nights. His brother had taken more than his share of their father's goods, then sat in the family house as though nothing had happened. No letter came, no confession came, no word of sorrow crossed the threshold. Hamid carried that missing word like a stone under the tongue. Near the water jar, an old dervish warmed his hands over the lamp. His cloak was patched at the shoulder. His sandals had been mended with blue thread. As Hamid sat nearby, a cloth seller from the bazaar passed through the gate, saw the dervish, and began to mock him. The man's mouth spilled harsh names. He laughed at the patched cloak, at the empty purse, at the dervish's thin wrists. The courtyard tightened, as courtyards do when one person pours bitterness into the air. The dervish only lowered his gaze to the lamp. The flame trembled. The cloth seller waited for a reply that would give his anger a companion. None came. At last, bored by his own noise, he stepped back into the street. His apology did not return after him. Only the scent of dyed wool remained. Hamid could not keep still. He leaned close to Sadi and asked why the old man had not defended his own name. Sadi turned the question toward the dervish, and the dervish smiled as gently as a cup being filled. He said there was a narrow road before every soul. If he crossed it safely and came near the friend, the cloth seller's words would be lighter than chaff. If he did not cross, then the man had not spoken harshly enough. The courtyard grew quiet around that answer. It did not make the insult beautiful. It did not pretend the cloth seller had been kind. It simply took his words down from the throne where anger had placed them. Hamid felt his own brother's face rise in him, then fade a little, as a face fades on the surface of disturbed water. Sadi watched the traveler breathe. The lamp snapped once, a tiny sound. The dervish lifted the water jar and poured for everyone, including the place where the mocker had stood. No one praised him. He did not seem to need praise. His silence was not defeat. It was a door that did not open to every hand that knocked. That night, Hamid slept on a reed mat near the wall. The apology he had wanted still had not come. Yet the missing word no longer filled the whole room. There was also the lamp. There was also the water jar. There was also the breath of the nay, sorrowing for its home without cursing the knife. May the apology that never came loosen its hand from you. The lamp in Shiraz burned lower, and the road of mercy bent toward another quiet teacher under the stars. Far to the west, on a road of pale stones and tamarisk shadows, Isa, son of Maryam, walked with a few companions after sunset. The day had been long. Their sandals were powdered white. Their water skins hung limp against their sides. Above them, the first stars appeared one by one, modest as lamps being carried into a great blue hall. The road passed near a broken wall where wild grass had grown through the cracks. There, at the edge of the path, lay the body of a dead dog. The travelers drew back. One covered his nose with his sleeve. Another frowned and spoke of the smell. A third said the sight was unclean and hurried his steps, as though the eye could be washed by speed. Isa did not hurry. He stood still where the road narrowed. The evening wind moved the hem of his robe. He looked at the poor animal that no one wanted to see. The dog's ribs showed through its ruined side. Dust had gathered in its fur. Flies lifted and settled. The companions waited for their teacher to confirm their disgust, for disgust is often lonely and seeks agreement. Instead, Isa bent his gaze toward the animal's mouth. In the failing light, the teeth shone strangely white, small, even, untouched by the dust around them. He said that the teeth were beautiful, like little pearls set by a careful hand. No one spoke for a while. The road remained the road. The body remained a body. The smell did not become perfume. Yet something had changed in the circle of men. Their eyes had been trained on decay, and Isa had shown them one clean thing left inside it. He had not denied what was hard to bear. He had refused to let hardness become the whole of what existed. A young companion named Yusuf walked behind the others after that. He had been keeping anger against a cousin who once shamed him in the marketplace. The cousin never returned to mend the torn cloth of that day. Whenever Yusuf remembered him, he remembered only the raised voice, the staring faces, the heat in his neck. The cousin had become, in Yusuf's mind, one single dark shape. But the white teeth of the dog stayed with him. He did not suddenly call the wound small. He did not invite the cousin back into the hidden room of trust. Still, as the stars thickened overhead, Yusuf remembered that the same cousin had once carried him across a flooded lane when they were boys. He remembered a fig split between them under a wall, one clean tooth in the mouth of memory. Isa walked on without explaining. The best teachers sometimes leave a lamp and let the traveler find the door. Behind them, the broken wall entered darkness. Ahead, a village oven sent a thread of smoke into the night. The companions followed the smell of bread, and the road became soft under their tired feet. Forgiveness did not arrive as a command. It arrived as a widening of sight. A person who had caused pain was not made innocent by one remembered kindness, but neither did the wound have to swallow the entire world. May what was ugly not be the only thing you carry into sleep. The road kept its dust, and the night carried the lesson toward an older traveler at a mosque gate. Years after Ibrahim ibn Adam had walked away from the noise of kingship, his cloak no longer carried the scent of palaces. It smelled of road dust, wool, and cold nights under open sky. He had slept in ruins, worked in orchards, eaten bread hard enough to test the teeth. The name he once had among rulers had thinned until it no longer weighed much. One evening, he came to a town where a small mosque stood near the market gate. The moon was hidden behind clouds. A few merchants were shutting their stalls, and the smell of cumin, horse sweat, and cooling ashes lay over the street. Ibrahim had no coin for lodging. He climbed the steps of the mosque and sat near the door, hoping to rest there until dawn. The keeper of the mosque came out carrying a lamp. He saw a ragged stranger in patched wool, beard tangled by travel, feet cracked from the road. The keeper's face hardened. He feared thieves, wanderers, and the complaints of respectable men. Without asking the stranger's name, he ordered him away. Ibrahim bowed his head but remained seated, too weary to stand quickly. The keeper grew angry. He took Ibrahim by the shoulder and pushed him down the steps. The old traveler rolled once, struck his knee, and came to rest near the dust of the street. The lamp shook in the keeper's hand. A few men turned from their stalls to watch. No apology came. The keeper only muttered about order and barred the door. Ibrahim stayed on the ground for a moment. His knee throbbed. The night air touched the torn place in his sleeve. Then he began to laugh softly, not at the keeper, but at the strange gentleness hidden inside humiliation. A man from the market recognized him and cried out that this was Ibrahim ibn Adam, the former prince, the friend of the poor, a man whose prayers were sought in distant towns. The keeper froze. His mouth opened, but before shame could find words, Ibrahim raised his hand. He said that no harm had been done beyond what the body could carry. Once, people stood when he entered a room. Now a servant of a small mosque had thrown him into dust. The dust, he said, had received him more honestly than a throne. The keeper lowered his lamp. He may have wanted to speak. The tale does not keep his words. It keeps Ibrahim's gesture. the old dervish brushing dust from his robe, then praying that the keeper's house be filled with peace. He did not pretend the shove was gentle. He did not say the closed door was right. He simply refused to build a second palace out of insult. Later that night, Ibrahim slept beneath the awning of a spice cellar. His knee ached. The moon returned and laid silver on the mosque steps. The same steps that had thrown him down now looked like ordinary stone. By dawn, he rose before the market stirred and walked on. A heart can be pushed from a door and still belong to the open road. The one who never asks pardon does not have to become the keeper of every inward gate. May the hard step beneath you become only a step, not a prison. From the mosque threshold, the knight entered a sick room where words themselves stumbled. Rumi told of a deaf man in Konya who heard that his neighbor had fallen ill. The deaf man was not cruel. He was troubled by the news. He stood in his small room at dusk, washed his hands, combed his beard, and prepared to visit the sickbed with the dignity the custom required. Because his hearing was weak, he rehearsed the visit before leaving. He imagined asking after the sick man's state. The sick man would say that he was better, and the deaf visitor would answer with thanks to God. He imagined asking what food had passed his lips. The sick man would say lentil broth or sherbet, and the visitor would bless it. He imagined asking which physician had come. The sick man would name a healer, and the visitor would praise the healer's steps. With this little script folded neatly inside his mind, the deaf man crossed the lane. The sky above Konya was dark as blue ink. A lantern burned in the sick man's house. Inside, the air smelled of vinegar cloth, old wool, and medicine. The sick neighbor lay pale against his pillow, eyes hollow from fever. The deaf man sat beside him and began. He asked after his condition. The sick man, bitter from pain, whispered that he was dying. The deaf man, hearing only the shape of a reply and trusting his rehearsal, smiled gently and gave thanks to God. The sick man's face tightened. The visitor asked what food had been taken. The sick man, stung by the first answer, said poison. The deaf man nodded and blessed it, hoping it would give strength. The sick man turned his face to the wall. The visitor asked which physician had been attending. The sick man, now burning with resentment, answered that the angel of death had been at the door. The deaf man lifted both hands and asked that such a visitor be welcomed with honor. Then, satisfied that he had performed a neighborly duty, he rose, adjusted his cloak, and went home relieved. Behind him, the sick man lay awake with a new wound beside the old fever. He thought his neighbor had mocked him at the edge of death. The deaf man, meanwhile, slept peacefully, glad that kindness had been shown. Rumi's tale carries a sorrowful smile. Harm had entered the room dressed as concern. No apology came because no offense was understood. The sick man suffered from the words. The deaf man suffered from his own deafness without knowing it. Between them lay a small bridge that neither had crossed. In the khan where this story was told, an old teacher named Badr lifted a cup of warm milk and said that many injuries are born in such sickrooms. One person speaks from a script. Another hears through pain. A sentence meant as balm arrives like salt. Later, the wounded heart waits for regret from someone who still believes a kindness was given. The lamp by Badr's hand fluttered. No one was asked to deny the wound. Yet the listeners felt how ignorance can wear the face of hardness. Some people do not apologize because pride locks their mouth. Others do not apologize because the door they bruised was never seen by them at all. May the clumsy sentence that hurt you grow softer in the lamp of understanding. A small smile returned to the Khan, and with it the figure of Nasreddin tying a knot in the dark. In Aksahir, where the evening donkeys knew their own way home and the bread ovens sent gold breath into the lanes, Nasreddin Haja kept a rope coiled beside his well. It was an ordinary rope, rough with use, smelling of dust, water, and old hemp. In the dry months, half the neighborhood remembered it. One neighbor remembered it more than the rest. He came first for a bucket, then for a bundle, then for a mule load of wood. Each time, the rope left Nasreddin's courtyard neat and returned frayed, knotted, or muddy. Once it returned 2 days late. Once it returned shorter than before. The neighbor always had an explanation. His face was full of reasons, but no apology lived there. Nasreddin watched the rope change shape through the season. He said little. He drank tea. He patched the rope. He wound it back beside the well with the patience of a man who knew that even hemp has a memory. One night, after the call to prayer had faded and the moon sat like a white coin above the rooftops, the neighbor knocked again. Nasreddin opened the door holding a lamp. The neighbor smiled the smile of someone who has already entered before being invited. He asked whether the Hajj's rope might serve him until morning. Nasreddin lifted the lamp higher. In the courtyard behind him, the rope lay in plain sight, coiled and still. A cat slept near it. The well stones were damp from the day's drawing. Nasreddin said that the rope was not free that night. The neighbor blinked. He asked what work a rope could have in the dark. Nasreddin said it was drying flour. The neighbor stared at him. Flour, he said, could not be dried on a rope. Nasreddin nodded gravely, as if receiving a learned opinion from a scholar. Then he answered that when a man does not wish to lend, flour can dry anywhere. The neighbor's smile fell away. For a moment the lane was very quiet. Somewhere a donkey sighed in its sleep. Nasreddin did not shout. He did not recite the account of every frayed fiber. He did not call the man careless, though the rope could have testified. He simply remained in the doorway, lamp steady, face mild as a bowl of milk. After the neighbor left, Nasreddin's wife came from the back room and looked at the coiled rope. She knew the whole story. She asked whether his heart still carried anger. Nasreddin scratched his beard and said the anger had been a poor guest and had already been shown the road. The rope, however, would stay home. Then he laughed softly, not at the neighbor's shame, but at the strange tricks required to protect peace in a foolish world. He set the lamp down beside the rope and covered the well. Forgiveness had not made him blind. It had only stopped the neighbor from living rent-free in his chest. The cat stretched and settled again. The moon slipped behind a roof. In Nasreddin's courtyard, the rope slept like a small brown serpent, spared from another night of being dragged through someone else's carelessness. May forgiveness give you rest without handing the rope back to the same careless hand. The laughter faded like a lamp turned down, and the path rose toward Kharaqan's quiet hills. High in the hills of Kharaqan, winter wind moved over the stones with the sound of a long sigh. A seeker named Mansour climbed toward the village, carrying a staff polished by many roads. He had heard of Abu al-Hasan Kharaqani, a sheikh whose presence was said to quiet the wildness in men. Mansour expected a doorway full of fragrance, a saint seated among books, perhaps disciples moving with lowered voices. Instead, he found a low cottage near the edge of the village. Smoke leaned from its chimney. A goat nosed at a stack of dry thorns. Mansour knocked, and a woman opened the door. Her eyes were sharp from labor and weather. When he asked for Abu al-Hasan, she answered with words as rough as winter bark. She called the sheikh foolish, useless, lost in clouds while ordinary hands bore ordinary burdens. Her voice struck the seeker harder than the cold. Mansour stepped away confused. He had come to honor a saint and had found a storm at the threshold. The woman did not call him back. No apology followed him down the path. Her words clung to his cloak as burrs cling to wool. He wandered beyond the last houses, thinking to return home before morning. Then, under the darkening sky, he saw something moving between the pines. Abu al-Hasan Kharaqani came slowly along the slope, a bundle of firewood tied behind him. Beneath the bundle walked a lion, calm as a servant carrying bread. In the sheik's hand was a thin snake, held lightly like a rope. The scene was so strange and quiet that Mansour forgot the cold. The sheik greeted him before any question formed. His face was lined, but not heavy. His eyes held the depth of someone who had passed many nights without asking life to be other than it was. He untied the firewood, stroked the lion's mane, and let the snake slip away into the brush. Mansour's confusion spilled out. He spoke of the woman at the door, her harsh tongue, the bewilderment it had left in him. Abu el-Hasan listened without flinching. Then he smiled and said that the wild beasts of the mountain had become gentle with him because he had learned not to become wild in his own house. He did not say harshness was holy. He did not tell Mansour to stand forever where the soul is trampled. He only showed that another person's weather need not command the sky within. The woman's tongue was her own trial. His response was his. Mansour looked back toward the cottage. A small square of lamplight glowed in its wall. Inside were pots, ashes, bread, fatigue, history, and the hidden knots of 2 human lives. Outside stood a lion waiting like a patient mule. Mansour felt the lesson without being able to hold it in words. Abu el-Hasan lifted the bundle of wood onto his own back and walked toward the village. The lion turned toward the dark hills. The snake disappeared beneath dry leaves. Mansour followed at a distance, carrying less certainty than before and more quiet. Some apologies never come because the other heart is still fighting old winters. Forgiveness does not warm every house, but it can keep the frost from entering the deepest room. May another storm pass through the valley without becoming the sky inside you. Down from the hills, the night entered a house where a bowl fell and mercy answered before fear could speak. In a house in Medina, when the evening meal had been set down and the walls held the day's last warmth, Hasan ibn Ali sat with guests upon a simple carpet. A brass lamp burned near the doorway. The room smelled of bread, lentils, and rose water. Outside, palm leaves moved softly in the night air. A young servant entered carrying a bowl of hot broth. Her hands were careful, but fear can make the wrist unsteady. As she stepped across the threshold, the edge of the carpet caught her foot. The bowl tipped. Broth spilled across Hasan's garment and onto his skin. The room drew in a breath. The girl stood motionless. The empty bowl shook in her hands. Around her, the guests watched the face of the master of the house. Such moments reveal the ruler hidden inside ordinary people. A small accident can summon a great anger. A stain on cloth can become an excuse to stain a heart. Hasan's face changed with pain, but he did not speak sharply. The girl, still trembling, remembered words from the Quran that had often been recited in the house. Her voice came thinly. She spoke of those who swallow anger. Hasan lowered his gaze. He said that the anger had been swallowed. A little strength returned to her voice. She spoke of those who pardon people. Hasan said that she had been pardoned. The room was very still. The broth steamed on the floor. The girl's hands no longer shook as violently. She spoke of the one who loves those who do what is beautiful. Hasan looked at her then, not as a servant who had made a mistake, but as a soul standing under the same mercy he himself needed. He said that she was free. No apology had yet found its way from her lips. Fear had filled her mouth first. Hasan did not wait for the perfect sentence. He answered the wound before the wound became a throne. His garment was stained. His skin smarted. The guests still smelled the spilled broth. Mercy did not erase the event. It changed what the event was allowed to become. Afterward, the floor was washed. A fresh garment was brought. The bowl was set aside, its rim chipped from the fall. The girl sat near the doorway, stunned by a freedom larger than the accident. Some of the guests looked down at their own hands, remembering small angers they had fed for years. Hasan ate little that night. He listened more than he spoke. The lamp flame rested in the brass cup, bending whenever the night wind entered. A stain can be cleaned from cloth with water. A stain on the inward eye takes a different washing. There are moments when the apology never comes because terror arrives first. There are moments when pardon moves faster than the tongue. A heart trained by mercy does not need to be begged before it becomes spacious. May mercy reach the place in you before anger builds a chair there. The brass lamp trembled once, and the night carried a scent of ashes toward Nishapur. Near Nishapur, when the fields were silver with late moonlight, Abu Sa'id al-Khair walked through a narrow lane with 2 disciples behind him. He had spent the evening speaking in a poor man's house. There had been no pulpit, only a reed mat, a clay lamp, and a circle of tired faces. He had spoken gently, then eaten a heel of bread dipped in yogurt and risen to leave. The lane was quiet except for a dog turning in its sleep. Houses leaned inward, their upper windows close enough for neighbors to trade gossip without stepping outside. As Abu Sa'id passed beneath one such window, a clay pan tilted from above. Cold ashes fell over his turban, shoulders, and beard. Fine gray dust clouded around him, then settled into the folds of his cloak. The disciples looked up in anger. They saw only a shutter closing. Whoever had emptied the pan did not call out. No apology came from the dark window. The lane held its breath, waiting to see whether the sheik would let himself be made small by someone else's contempt. Abu Sa'id stood still. Ashes clung to his eyelashes. Then he bowed his head to the ground. The disciples thought perhaps he was shaken. Instead, they heard him thanking the merciful. He said that a man fit for fire had been given only ashes. The disciples' anger had no place to stand after that. One of them still stared at the window, wanting the hidden hand to be named, wanting justice to arrive with a loud footstep. Abu Sa'id touched his sleeve, and a little cloud of ash rose in the lamplight. He did not excuse the insult. He simply made it too small to rule the night. They walked on. A breeze came through the lane and carried some of the ash away. The rest remained on his cloak like pale dust from an old road. At the corner, a boy sleeping beside a bundle of reeds stirred and turned over. The world did not know it had just witnessed a battle. There had been no sword, no shout, no victor's song. Only a shudder, a fall of ashes, and a man who would not let humiliation become his master. Later, in the lodging house, a disciple tried to brush the cloak clean. Abu Sa'id stopped him for a moment and looked at the gray marks. He said they were useful teachers. Silk praises the body too quickly. Ash reminds it of its end. Then he let the disciple finish. This was not a command for the weak to accept every falling pan. It was the sheik's own medicine in that hour, measured to his own heart. He knew when to step aside from harm. He also knew when harm had already passed, and only resentment was asking to be fed. The hidden person at the window remains hidden in the tale. Perhaps shame came later. Perhaps not. The story does not need that person to become noble. Its light belongs to the one who walked away unowned. May the ash of an insult fall from you before it becomes a second skin. The lane opened into orchards, where another hard mercy waited beneath sleeping leaves. Rumi placed one more lesson in an orchard at the edge of a road. The trees were heavy with late fruit. Wind moved through the leaves with the sound of whispered prayer. A traveler, exhausted by heat and distance, lay down in the shade and fell into a deep sleep. His mouth hung open slightly. His cloak was folded beneath his head. A horseman came along the road at that hour. He was alert, with the hard eyes of someone used to danger in lonely places. As he neared the sleeping man, he saw a snake slip from the grass and slide into the traveler's open mouth. The horseman leapt down. He knew that if he shouted the truth, terror might freeze the man or drive the poison deeper. There was no time for soft explanation. He struck the sleeper with a switch and forced him to his feet. The traveler woke in terror and pain. Before he could gather his senses, the horseman drove him across the orchard, striking his legs whenever he slowed. The traveler cried out against him. He called him cruel, mad, worse than a bandit. The horseman gave no defense. Under one tree lay a pile of fallen apples, brown, bruised, sour with rot. The horseman forced the man to eat them. The traveler gagged and wept with anger. He begged to be left alone. The horseman answered only with more urgency. Then he drove him to a stream and made him drink until his belly heaved. At last, bent over the water, the traveler vomited. Out came the snake, dark and terrible, twisting on the bank. The traveler fell silent. The whole orchard seemed to fall silent with him. The horseman stepped back, breathing hard, the switch hanging loose in his hand. Only then did the traveler understand. The blows had been a rough door into life. The rotten apples had been medicine with an ugly face. The horseman had accepted being cursed because speech would have failed the moment. No apology had come during the pain. No tenderness had explained itself while the switch was falling. The traveler crawled to the horseman's feet, but the horseman lifted him before shame could crush him. There was no need to make the saved man bow too long. The snake lay dead among the wet stones. The horse drank from the stream. Above them, the apples held their quiet redness in the night. Rumi's tale is not permission for cruelty. A cruel man enjoys another's helplessness. The horseman did not enjoy it. His urgency was clean. Still, the traveler's body had felt the blows before his eyes saw the snake. That is how many hidden mercies arrive in the world, misunderstood, unwelcome, and late to explain themselves. Not every wound has such a secret. Many hurts are simply hurts. Yet the tale leaves one small lantern beside resentment. Some events cannot be read while the body is still shaking. Some faces look like enemies until the snake is seen on the bank. The traveler washed his mouth in the stream. The taste of bitter apples remained. He would remember the blows, but he would also remember the dark shape that had nearly claimed him in sleep. May the truth beneath a painful hour reveal itself gently in you. The orchard stream ran on, and its sound became the echo of chains in an Egyptian cell. In Egypt, Dhu'l-Nun al-Misri was known for a heart that listened deeply. Fishermen had seen him stand by the Nile at dawn, watching the water as though every ripple carried a letter. Students came to him with questions. Some left comforted, some left unsettled, for a real teacher does not always hand the ego a sweet. There came a season when his words angered men who loved safe walls around mystery. They accused him before rulers. They said his speech was dangerous, too strange, too full of hidden meanings. Soldiers came. Chains were brought. Dhu'l-Nun was taken from the river path and led toward a prison room where the air smelled of damp stone and old straw. The cell was narrow. A slit high in the wall admitted a blade of moonlight. At night, rats moved behind the clay jars. From another chamber came the cough of a man who had forgotten the sky. Dhu'l-Nun sat on the floor, wrapped his cloak around his knees, and remembered the Nile moving freely beyond the walls. A jailer named Faraj watched him for several nights. Prisoners usually cursed the hands that had delivered them there. Some cursed the judge, some cursed the informers, some cursed God in whispers, then covered their faces in fear. Dhu'l-Nun did none of this. He prayed. Sometimes he smiled into the darkness, not as a man pleased with chains, but as one who had found a small lamp even there. Faraj asked whether anger rose toward those who accused him. Dhu'l-Nun looked at the strip of moonlight on the floor. He said the accusers thought they were guarding the path from danger. Perhaps they were afraid. Perhaps they were proud. Perhaps they mistook a candle for a fire. He asked that the one who knew their hearts better than they knew them would forgive them and open what had been closed. The jailer had expected bitterness and found a river underground. He did not understand such freedom. The chain still lay at Dhu'l-Nun's ankle. The door remained locked. Nothing outward had changed. Yet the men who accused him were not in the cell with him. He had not carried them inside. Days later, word came from the ruler. Dhu'l-Nun was to be released. The jailer opened the door before dawn. The corridor was blue with early light. Faraj expected the saint to hurry out, but Dhu'l-Nun paused and touched the stone wall. He had prayed there. He had wept there. He had learned there. Even a narrow cell had become part of the road. Outside, the city was waking. Bakers slapped dough against hot clay. A donkey shook its bells. The Nile received the morning without asking who had been right. Dhu'l-Nun walked toward the water, his ankles sore where the iron had rubbed. No apology from the accusers is remembered. Their names are dust. What remains is the image of a man in a locked room who did not let unseen enemies sit beside him through the night. May the cell built by another's judgment open quietly inside you. The prison door faded behind him, and another door appeared, opening and closing under a patient sheikh's hand. Abu Uthman al-Hiri once walked through Nasreddin with a small group of companions. The streets were damp from a brief rain. Water gathered in the hollows of the stones, reflecting lamps in broken gold. The sheikh's cloak was plain, and his step was neither hurried nor slow. He carried himself as though each footfall had been given permission. A wealthy man named Khalid had heard people praise Abu Uthman's patience. Praise made Khalid suspicious. He disliked saints who were loved by the poor. He invited the sheikh to his house for a meal, but his invitation had a hook hidden under it. Servants lit lamps, placed cushions in the guest room, and set bowls of rice and herbs near the brazier. Then Khalid waited by the door. When Abu Uthman arrived, Khalid looked at him coldly and said the visit was not welcome after all. The sheikh bowed his head and returned to the street. His companions were troubled, but he did not speak against the host. After a while, Khalid sent another message, saying the meal was ready and the earlier dismissal had been a mistake. Abu Uthman turned back. He crossed the same wet stones. Again the door opened. Again Khalid turned him away. This happened more than once. Each time, the sheikh came when called and left when dismissed. The lamps inside burned lower. The food cooled. The servants whispered behind their sleeves. At last, Khalid grew restless in his own trap. The insult had not produced the anger he wanted. He opened the door himself and found Abu Uthman standing calmly in the lane, rain beads shining on his wool. Khalid asked what kind of man could be called and rejected again and again without rage. Abu Uthman answered with a softness that gave no room to pride. He said there was nothing remarkable in what he had done. A dog behaves the same way at a door. It comes when called and goes when driven away. If such patience is praised too loudly, even a dog might laugh. Khalid's face changed. The tale does not dwell on his apology. It does not need to. The sharper turn belonged to Abu Uthman, who refused to make a throne out of being mistreated. He did not say Khalid's game was noble. He did not pretend the door had been generous. He simply stood free of the insult's bait. The companions remembered the wet lane more than the meal. They remembered the lamps reflected in puddles, the closed door, the sheikh's shoulders under rain. Many years later, when someone spoke harshly and waited for their anger to rise, they would think of Abu Uthman and the dog at the door. There is a kind of forgiveness that removes the feast from the offender's hand. No anger is eaten. No humiliation is swallowed as identity. The heart bows to God, not to the cruelty of a host. When the sheikh finally entered, the rice was cold. He ate without complaint. Cold rice fills the body as well as hot rice when the inward fire is steady. May the door that rejected you lose its power to name you. The wet stones of Nasreddin shone like small moons, and the last story waited at the edge of dawn. At the edge of another dawn, Rumi remembered Ali, whose courage was not only in the arm, but in the mastery of the arm. The plain was wide and dim. Dust hung low over the ground. Men had shouted there, and the shouting had begun to fade. Above the horizon, the first pale line of morning waited behind the dark. Ali stood over an enemy who had fought him fiercely. The struggle had ended. The man lay beneath him, defeated but still burning with hatred. The world around them seemed to pause, as though even the dust wished to see what would happen next. Then the man spat in Ali's face. For an ordinary warrior, that would have been the moment of greatest fury. The insult was intimate, hot, meant to drag the soul down from justice into revenge. It asked Ali to forget the unseen and answer only the wounded self. It asked the hand to become servant to the face. Ali stepped back. He lowered his sword and walked away for a little while. The enemy stared, confused. No apology had been spoken. No regret had softened the man's eyes. The insult still wet Ali's cheek. Yet Ali would not act while anger had a share in the action. Before the spittle, he had been moving in obedience to something higher than himself. After it, the lower self had entered the field and asked for blood in its own name. So Ali waited until that inward dust settled. The man on the ground could not understand such restraint. A sword raised in battle he knew. A sword lowered after insult was a door into a country he had never seen. When Ali returned, the man asked what had stopped him. Ali answered that he would not strike for his own anger. The hand must belong to God, not to the heat of a wounded pride. The tale is strong, yet its center is quiet. Forgiveness here is not softness without strength. It is strength refusing to be used by the smallest part of the self. Ali did not need the enemy's apology in order to become free of him. He did not wait for the offender to become gentle before guarding the purity of his own act. Rumi loved this story because it shows the reed flute's secret. The reed has been cut, yet its cry can still become music instead of noise. A face can be insulted, yet the heart does not have to hand its kingdom to the insult. A wound can be felt without being crowned. As the dawn opened, the plain lost its harsh edges. Dust settled on sandals and stones. The sword remained lowered. The enemy's hatred had met something it could not understand. A man who would not let another's darkness choose the shape of his soul. For the one lying awake with an apology that never came, this is the last lamp of the night. The missing sari may remain missing. The person who wounded may never turn back, never explain, never soften. Still, the sword can be lowered inside. The face can be washed. The road can continue toward morning. May the unsaid sorry remain outside while peace returns home to you. Dawn rested on the reed bed, and the flute's ache became quiet enough for sleep. Thank you for spending this hour with the reed flute. If this brought you a moment of peace, consider subscribing. Rest well and sleep deeply.